Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking all of the Gemium plants in Plants vs Zombies 2. Before we get into the list, there are two rules I want to mention. Plants that used to cost gems and plants that cost gems only in a special event won't be in this list. So you won't be seeing sweet potato, sapling, and ghost pepper. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything new in the channel. Without further ado, let's get into the list. So starting off the list, coming in at number 10, aka the worst Gemium plant, is going to be the Hypnoshroom. The Hypnoshroom basically hypnotizes zombies and make them fight for you if the zombie eats this plant. Now, that might sound fun, but there are some problems with this plant. Number 1, if you hypnotize a weak or injured zombie, that hypnotized zombie won't survive for very long since they are weak and thus can be easily killed. Number 2, the hypnotized zombie won't stay in the lawn forever. Even if you hypnotize just a bucket head, the bucket head won't stay in the lawn forever. He's just going to walk to the end of the lawn until he will disappear forever. It also doesn't help that the Hypnoshroom has a long recharge and costs 125 stun instead of in the original PVZ where it costs 75 stun. Yikes! The only good thing I could say about this plant is that its plant food is pretty good, where if a zombie eats this plant, then the zombie will grow into a big gargantua. But hey, the gargantua won't stay in the lawn forever, you know. Moving on to number 9, which is going to be the electric current. The electric current basically creates electric fences between him and another electric current. He also got buffed, in which the buff is if a zombie takes a bite on him, he will move the zombie to other lanes. So he's basically a garlic at this point. But I still use this plant with the garlic since the garlic has the higher toughness. But there's some problems with this plant. Number 1, this plant is only good if you use it in groups. And number 2, you might as well plant a long-range offensive plant so that the zombies won't get to your plants fast. Not to mention, if a gargantua spawns in the 1st or 5th lane, things could go really bad since the electric currents cannot counter gargantuars. Moving on to number 8, which is going to be the peanut. The peanut is basically a merge between the pea shooter and the walnut. Its stun cost is also a merge between the pea shooter and walnut, that being 150 stun. There's a big reason why I'm not a big fan of this plant. One is that you can just plant a pea shooter and a walnut on different columns, and then you can just plant a bunch of pea shooters in one row. Secondly, if the peanut is half eaten, the peanut will fire twice as slow. But wait, you can use this plant with torchwoods, right? But if you want to use this plant with torchwoods, either the defensive part of the plant or the offensive part of the plant will just become redundant. It also doesn't help that the world this plant is introduced in screws over both pea shooters and walnuts via the jesters and wizard zombies. One quick thing that I have to mention is that the peanut is very good to use with the reinforcement, as the reinforcement activates its family's plant food, which peanut's plant food is a combination of a pea shooter and a walnut. Overall, this is a fun plant but not that useful. Moving on to number 7, which is going to be the lava guava. The lava guava is basically a cheaper and weaker version of the cherry bomb. I don't really use this plant since this plant is weak and therefore not a reliable instant kill plant. But this plant is very good to use for slow zombies, as the lava tile can stick around for a while. There are also two disadvantages of the lava guava. 1, it can't be planted on rail carts, and 2, this plant is absolutely bad to use in Big Wave Beach, as it not only destroys the lily pad, but the lava tile will also disappear due to the water. Hey, speaking of the homing pistol being in the recording, moving on to number 6, which is going to be the homing pistol. The homing pistol is basically the PVZ2 version of the cattail, and what he does is he will attack the closest zombie to your home. This is very good to use in the start of the match, since while you're farming stun and building defenses, the homing pistol will take care of the zombies. But there are two major problems with this plant. Number 1, he has the highest stun cost out of any Gemium plant. At level 1, he costs 250 stun. And number 2, just like cattail, the homing pistol is terrible at handling hordes or groups of zombies. What makes this plant even worse is that in Plants vs Zombies 2, most of the time the zombies will come in a horde instead of one by one. But at least he's a fun plant to use. Now we're moving on to the upper band of the tier, starting with number 5, which is going to be the Shrinking Violet. The shrinking violet basically speaks for itself. It shrinks zombies in a 3x3 area, and its plant food is shrinking all zombies in the loam. This plant works the best with drafted tail as seen with the footage. The shrinking violet will shrink zombies, and then the drafted tail can flung the zombies into the air. The only thing that holds this plant back is that it's best to kill the zombies rather than weaken them, but this plant is still pretty solid. Moving on to number 4, which is going to be the jalapeno or jalapeno if you want to call him that. The jalapeno basically takes out zombies in a lane. This is very useful if you want to use him to take out multiple zombies in a lane, taking out imp cannons in pirate seas, and he's also very good to use in frostbite caves, more specifically in dealing with ice blocks. Unlike most instant use plants where they would destroy the ice but leave the trap zombie untouched, Jalapeno can destroy the ice block and the trap zombie inside, which means that he will be useful in taking out Troglodyte and his ice block imps. Although taking out a lane is not as effective as taking out a 3x3 area, this plant is still very strong and is recommended to be the first Gemium plant you should buy. Moving on to number 3, which is going to be the squash. The squash basically speaks for itself. He squashes zombies in one tile and instantly kills them. However, there are some zombies that can survive the squash, such as brick heads, pyramid heads, barrel heads, and most known of all, gargantuars. However, there is one big reason that the squash made it to number 3, and that is because of the leveling system. Basically, if you level this guy up to level 3, which is fairly easy for you to do, he can squash 2 times. And also, him returning to the tile counts as a squash, so basically, you can kill gargantuars now. The only thing annoying about him is that he most likely will target the zombies in the back instead of the front. But besides that, because of the leveling system, this is one of the best Gemium plants and is worth the 100 gems. Also, a fun fact about Squash, he was the first Gemium plant I bought. But now, moving on to number 2, which is going to be the Hurricane. The Hurricane basically pushes zombies to the last column. Now, that might not sound amazing, but it's actually useful. The Hurricane is giving you a second chance to defeat those zombies. One thing I forgot to mention about the Squash is that he's also very good to use with the Hurricane. The Hurricane will push the zombies back to the last column, and then you can just use the Squash to squash all of those zombies. Seriously, that is one of the best combos I've ever known. Also, unlike the winter mint plants, the Hurricane's chilling effect doesn't go away when fire plants such as the Pea Shooter projectiles hit them. And he's also very good to use in pirate seas, specifically the rows that have missing planks. The Hurricane can basically push those zombies and basically eliminate them since they fall into the ocean. Overall, great plant and one of the best Gemium plants, and we'll top the list if it weren't for our last entry. Now, the number 1 Gemium plant, aka, in my opinion, the best Gemium plant, which is going to be the Pea Shooter. I love this plant and I have my reasons why it deserves to be in the top of my list. Number 1, he deals double the damage of a Pea Shooter, so basically he kinda makes Torchwood redundant. Number 2, he is absolutely great to use in frostbite caves since he can warm tile. While the pepper pulp may be free, I consider the Pea Shooter to be the better option of the two since the Pea Shooter has a faster recharge, higher damage, and a better rate of fire. Number 3, his plant food is absolutely destructive. It basically functions like a jalapeno at this point. I consider this to be the best out of the pea-like plants, as in my opinion, it is better than the repeater, primal pea shooter, and the red stinger. The only downside I can see with this plant is that he doesn't work really well with winter plants, mainly the winter melon. But aside from that, this is in my opinion the best Gemium plant in the game. Alright, so that's my list. What is your ranking of all the Gemium plants? Be sure to write your list in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see y'all next video.